Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to day 72 of our F225 hot lap and track guides. Yes, we returned this weekend to the Baku city streets and of course the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Now, if you missed out on the video that went live a couple of days ago from Monza, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. Baku is probably one of the weirdest tracks. I would argue it's one of the best tracks to learn no assists inside the F1 games. It's also one of the best tracks to kind of learn how to drive the Formula 2 cars and how to drive them quite quickly. But it's also one of the worst tracks for time trial inside F1 25. Some of the cheesy strats you can do kind of make the leaderboard slightly irrelevant around here because, yeah, it's just a really, really odd circuit to try and get a lap hooked up on. So I've tried to give you guys a reference point that should be a pretty clean lap, but will also kind of help you work out how much you can get away with around this venue as well. Of course, if you're new to this series and don't know what this is about, I basically go through, I provide you with a race-ready F2 setup inside the F1 25 game. I talk you around the circuit, where your braking markers should be, what gears you want to be using, and any other kind of useful nuggets of information I can provide. And then last but not least, I leave you with a hot lap. Of course, as always, timestamps will be linked down below if you just want to head to a certain part of this video. A massive thank you to everybody for their continued support on this series. We are getting very, very close now to 15,000 subscribers. And between you and me, Matt212 Gameplay is also about 500 subscribers away from 15k as well. So will this channel get there first, or will it be that one? But yeah, it's the best way to support us though. If you are enjoying these videos, if you are finding them useful, I do provide all of these setups for free, and I will continue to do so forever. So yeah, without further ado though, let's head out onto the track. Well, making our way then out of the final corner to start a lap then here from Baku, the third longest track on the Formula 1 calendar. I think this place is slightly shorter than Vegas, isn't it? But obviously, you're all the way up in 6th gear. You've got the DRS wide open as we make our way down in towards turn 1. Spotting the braking marker for this first corner can be a little bit awkward, but you want to be using the 150 meter board there that you can see on the outside of the track. Now, I normally advise with the F1 cars that you don't get them wedged over this curb, but with the F2 machines, you can get away with it. I've had no issues with it. So yeah, you want to get the car nicely on either side of the curb, cycle it down into 2nd gear, and prepare yourself to turn in ready for that first corner. Of course, so many 90-degree corners early on in the lap, but this first one then, 2nd gear on the way through, and nice and tidy on the exit, and then up through 3rd gear as well there. You're going to be up in 4th though by the time you get in towards turn 2. You want to be braking just as you go past this hole in the wall, just as kind of this Qatar Airways banner rejoins the circuit in a nice straight line. And then again, you're going to go from 4th gear down to 2nd gear for turn 2. You can really attack this curb though on the inside. I don't know if there are any track limits on the inside of this corner, but I have the car right up to the wall and the game will let you get away with it there. Maximise the run off the turn again, and then once more you're going to activate the DRS and make the run down in towards turn 3. For yet another 90-degree left-hander as well then. Down here, you want to be looking at about 125 meters out. You go past the 150. This kind of mark in the wall, you should be able to spot. That is going to be your reference point. Again, I would always say into turn 3, brake slightly early than slightly late, just because there is no real room for error. And once again, you're going to tip the car in 2nd gear and just be really careful with the wheel spin off of the corner. Once again, maximising the track width. Short shift up through 3rd gear though on the exit, and then you're going to let the car rev out in 3rd. You want to be braking about 60 metres out ready for turn 4. It is yet another 90-degree corner, but this time you're going to the right, otherwise you'll have done a square. So yeah, 2nd gear once again. This corner though, I am avoiding the apex curb just because I find that you understeer out towards the wall. So once more, just be very, very careful off of the turn, and then once more, you're going to be back up through 3rd and 4th gear yet again. About 75 meters out, you can kind of use these trees as a bit of a reference point, but as soon as you get the car square over on this side of the road, that is once again, you want to brake, yeah, just before you get to the 50 meter board, and once again, you're going to be in 2nd gear through yet another 90-degree left-hander. Keep the car in 2nd, avoid the inside curve through the exit, and then we're going to get the foot to the floor off of the turn until finally we get to a corner that isn't a 90-degree corner. It's slightly more angled, this one. Want to be braking just as you go past this kind of reference marker, this kind of hole in the fence, right where this marshal is stood on the outside there. I believe you're going to be up in 5th gear, and you're going to go all the way down to 2nd once again, though. Really be careful, though, trying to get the car rotated in, and just be careful of wheel spin on the exit. Once more, though, you can get away with taking a lot of curb through the entry there as you go up through 3rd and 4th on the exit. Down 1 gear, though, brake just past the black box at the 50-meter board. Down 1 gear, though, into 3rd, and really try and shut the car in nice and early to maximise this castle section as best as you can. You basically want to make it one smooth left-hand motion as best as you can until you get the car square with the wall on the outside. And then again, you're going to be braking the black box there, down into 2nd gear to make sure you get the weight through the front, and then really try and hug the wall through the exit there. Attack the curb then as we make our way in towards the old town. Maximise the width of the circuit on the exit just to carry the speed, because this is one of the longest flat-out sections of the entire lap then. You're going to be up in 5th gear, though, as we make our way through these 2 left-handers, but leave the car in 5th, let it rev out as we make our way down the hill. You want to brake just past the 100-meter board, just at the start of this curb on the outside, but again, it can be very difficult to spot. Really try and get as much of the car over the white line as you possibly can. 2nd gear on the way in, attack the apex curb as best as possible. You can really grab that curb on the inside there, and you should get away with not hitting the wall on the exit, as long as you've scrubbed off enough speed. Keep the car lined up with the wall, though. Aiming for the 100-meter board from 4th gear, you want to go down to 2nd once again. I try to avoid this apex curb as best as possible, but allow the car to run wide on the exit there. Keep it wedged, and then it's going to be flat out all the way back round towards the start-finish line. And, well, it is a long run back towards the start-finish line, but after everything you've done, it's nice to give your brain a little bit of a rest as you get back around here. So, yeah, activate the DRS, of course, as soon as you can. But there we go, that is going to be a lap of Baku. I would say in qualifying, obviously if you're on a final run, let the car slowly come over to the left-hand side of the circuit. It just gives you a slightly shorter run back to the flag. And that, you know, those couple of extra hundredths of a second can be the difference maker. You know, we saw it with Bottas and Stroll a couple of years ago. But yeah, without further ado though, let's head back to the pit lane and I'll talk you guys through the setup. Having a quick look then at our global leaderboard. As you can see, 112th in the world. Not the best one I've had in terms of the global leaderboard. Just over 1.4 seconds away from fastest. But like I said, this track is very RNG based. And a lot of people will attack the curbs, hit the wall, and not get a penalty for it. So yeah, that was a pretty clean lap in the hot lap you're about to see. So I'm pretty happy with it nonetheless there. Having a look though at our setup figures, 4-1 for your wing angle here. Again, I always run slightly more front than rear wing, but I've seen people running 0-0 around this circuit as well. So 4-1 works quite nicely for me, gives you a bit of bite, gives you a little bit of recovery, and will just help eliminate any kind of errors that you might make in a race session as well. 160 though for your on and off throttle diff. Again, where most of the corners here are very kind of brake, turn, accelerate, you know, very short, sharp corners. You can obviously run the on-throttle diff completely locked as normal, but the off-throttle diff, you can get away with running it a lot more locked as well, because there's really not many corners where you're trying to rotate the car around as you're trying to slow it down as well. Absolutely minimum camber and toe angles, again, just the complete standard we run inside this game. 3811 though for your front and rear suspension, fairly similar to what we normally see, but 10.6 for your anti-roll bar. Actually running this slightly differently to what we normally run. It just kind of helps with, especially down at the end of Sector 2, obviously that horrible downhill left-hand braking zone, to have the front a bit firmer, allow the rear end of the car to squat a bit more. Again, where this track is so many big traction zones as well, 6 on the anti-roll bar at the rear end, just kind of gives you that little bit of extra leeway. But 1946 for your ride height as well. Again, it allows you to attack those curbs, but the car isn't going to like bounce and throw itself at a wall, because in time trial that's okay. In race scenarios, you're going to lose your wing very quickly if the car is doing that. 56-100 though for your brake bias and pressure. Again, very similar to like we said at Monza, where most of the braking zones here are very big and all in a straight line. You want to run a very forward bias, but again, just run what you normally would and then up the front brake bias by 1 or 2%. Should give you something that you're comfortable with. And then last but not least, 24.3 front PSI, 21.8 on the rear. Again, This circuit, if you keep it smooth, if you keep it tidy, tyre wear is not going to be a concern. It's one of the easiest tracks for tyre wear inside F125 in the F1 machines, and that reigns true still with the F2 cars. You've just got to be careful that you're not lighting up the rear wheels, otherwise you might struggle with it. But there we go then. That is going to be our track guide here from Baku, of course. Like I mentioned in the intro, if this video helped you out, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed. We will return next weekend out in Singapore, of course a venue that F2 has never been to, but I think would be quite cool in the future as well. For now though, I'm going to leave you guys with a hot lap, and yeah, we will return very soon out at Marina Bay.